Financial headlines continually promise a massive transfer of trillions to millennials and Gen Z. But looking past the articles and into the actual balance sheets reveals an empty promise. When you read about average net worth figures rising for young people, the math is deceptive. The gains of the top 1% pull the average up, covering a structural deficit for the median worker. This chart of recent Federal Reserve data shows the true distribution of assets. Baby boomers hold 51.1% of the nation's wealth, over $85 trillion, while millennials and Gen Z are compressed into a 10.7% sliver at the bottom. Young workers produce massive economic value in the modern workforce, but the mechanics of asset ownership prevent them from capturing it. The wealth remains concentrated at the top. A side-by-side comparison of a 35-year-old today and their counterpart in 1995 reveals a structural shift in the economic baseline that overrides individual effort. This visualization compares home ownership rates between those two eras. At age 35, 62% of baby boomers owned homes. For millennials, that number drops to 49%. The primary vehicle for middle-class equity is now gated off. At the bottom end of the distribution, 14% of modern 35-year-olds have a negative net worth, nearly double the 8.7% rate of boomers at the exact same age. For the median earner, the traditional path, college, a safe job, and a house, has become mathematically defunct. The missing dollars in your bank account are a symptom. The system broke because the demographic engine running underneath it stalled out. The old age dependency ratio divides retirees by working-age adults. In 1980, a massive young base supported few retirees at a 19% ratio. Today, that pyramid has inverted to 31%. By 2060, it reaches 50%, every 2 workers supporting 1 retiree. This demographic inversion acts like a vacuum, draining the surplus capital young people need to compound their own wealth. The value of daily labor has disconnected from the value of hard assets. This graph illustrates the compound growth working against the working class. While wages grew in a flat, linear line, non-discretionary assets like housing, healthcare, and education compounded exponentially. A decade of 0% interest rates inflated the assets held by older generations, while penalizing the cash savings of the young. Young people now face a market where they must buy those hyperinflated assets using stagnant wages at high borrowing rates. With the rise of institutional home rentals and subscription models, the economy has shifted from an ownership model to a model of mere access. Without equity ownership, the next generation is trapped in a subscription loop, transferring their income to asset holders without building a personal balance sheet. The demographic imbalance at the heart of the economy creates a direct link to the growing liabilities of the state. This map highlights countries already facing population decline, like Germany, Italy, Japan, and South Korea. Their shrinking youth populations are being loaded with pension and healthcare tax burdens. Not every young person is falling behind. The wealth gap within the younger generation itself is at a historical high. Those who secure a foothold in elite STEM fields, finance, or inherit capital can move ahead. But for those in standard labor roles, the math points towards stagnation. Even if a median worker manages to save, a multi-trillion-dollar tax bill awaits them as the state moves to fund the aging population. By the year 2050, as capital is consumed by end-of-life care rather than innovation, the economic engine stops moving. Without a financially secure youth class to drive consumption and business creation, economic velocity will stagnate. Wealth moves from creation to defensive hoarding. We are now witnessing a permanent structural shift in global mathematics that moves beyond the patterns of traditional economic cycles. With the old mathematical rules now functioning as a systemic drain on new capital, escaping the trap requires a total departure from traditional approaches to value, risk, and ownership.